Sarah Mitchell stood perfectly still in the parking lot of Murphy's Diner, her hands loose at her sides. The warm Virginia sun beat down on the asphalt, and a small crowd had gathered in a loose circle around her. Two police officers flanked her position, their faces uncertain but their stance official. "Ma'am, we're going to need you to come with us," Officer Davis said. His hand rested on his belt near his handcuffs. He was young, maybe 25, with the eager look of someone who wanted to do the right thing. Sarah didn't move. She kept her breathing steady, her face calm. After everything she'd been through, this moment felt almost surreal. She'd survived things these people couldn't imagine, and now she stood accused in a diner parking lot in the small coastal town of Chessik, Virginia. The man who'd called the police stood 10 feet away, his chest puffed out with righteous anger. His name was Gordon West, a local real estate agent who wore his own military service like a badge of honor. He'd served 4 years in the Army as a supply clerk and never let anyone forget it. "That's right, officers," Gordon said, pointing at Sarah. "I've been watching stolen Valor cases online for years. I know a fake when I see one. Look at her jacket." Sarah glanced down at the leather jacket she wore. It had been her father's once before he passed. She'd added her own patches over the years, each one earned through blood, sweat, and sacrifice. The jacket told the story of her service, though most people wouldn't understand the significance of the symbols. "That patch right there," Gordon continued, stepping closer and jabbing his finger toward her shoulder. "That's the special warfare insignia. Women can't earn that. It's impossible. And that metal ribbon, that's the Navy Cross. Do you know how rare that is? She's wearing stolen valor, plain as day." The crowd murmured. Sarah recognized some of the faces: Mrs. Chen from the grocery store, Tom Bailey, who ran the hardware shop, Linda Freeman, the librarian. She'd lived in Chessik for 8 months now, keeping to herself mostly, trying to build a quiet life after her medical retirement from the Navy. "Ma'am," Officer Davis said again, his voice softer now, "can you explain the patches?" Sarah met his eyes. "I can," she said, her voice was steady, calm. "I earned every one of them." Gordon laughed, a sharp bark of derision. "Yeah, right. Lady, I don't know where you bought that jacket, but you're disrespecting every real veteran out there. You should be ashamed." The second officer, Rodriguez, older and more weathered, stepped forward. "Let's all stay calm. Ma'am, do you have any documentation? Military ID? DD 214. "At home," Sarah said. "I didn't think I'd need to prove my service to get coffee." "Convenient," Gordon sneered. "That's what they all say. I've seen this scam 100 times on YouTube. People pretending to be heroes for attention, for discounts, for stolen glory." Sarah felt the familiar weight settling into her chest. Not anger exactly. She'd learned to control that years ago. It was more like disappointment. She defended this country, bled for it, lost friends for it. And now she stood accused in front of her neighbors based on the assumptions of a man who didn't know her story. "I'm going to need you to turn around, ma'am," Officer Davis said. He pulled his handcuffs from his belt. "We can sort this out at the station." "This is unnecessary," Sarah said quietly. "Protocol, ma'am. If you're telling the truth, you'll be released with an apology." Sarah was about to comply when a voice cut through the crowd. "What seems to be the problem here?" Everyone turned. An older man pushed through the gathered onlookers, his back straight despite his age. He wore khaki pants and a simple button-down shirt, but something about the way he carried himself commanded immediate respect. His hair was silver, cut military short, and his blue eyes were sharp and assessing. Officer Rodriguez straightened slightly. "Sir, this is official police business." "I can see that," the man said. His gaze swept over the scene, taking in Gordon, the officers, and finally settling on Sarah. His eyes widened slightly when he saw her jacket, particularly the patches on her shoulder. Gordon stepped forward, eager to explain. "This woman is committing stolen valor, sir. She's wearing insignia she couldn't possibly have earned. I called the police to—" "What's your name, son?" the older man interrupted. "Gordon West. I served in the Army, so I know." "Your rank?" "Specialist, but that's not." "And you're accusing this woman based on what exactly?" "Your extensive knowledge of special warfare operations." Gordon's face reddened. "I know enough to know women can't earn those patches." The older man turned back to Sarah. He stepped closer, his eyes fixed on a small mark just below her collar, barely visible. It was a simple design, easy to miss if you didn't know what to look for. A trident crossed with an anchor, rendered in dark thread. The man's expression changed. His jaw tightened. His eyes, already sharp, took on an intensity that made Officer Davis step back involuntarily. "That mark," the older man said quietly, his voice carrying a weight that silenced everyone. "That mark is earned." Gordon sputtered, "What? No, you don't understand." The man turned to face him, and Gordon's words died in his throat. "I understand perfectly," the man said. "The question is, do you know who you're talking to?" Officer Rodriguez squinted at the older man. Recognition dawned on his face. Admiral Carson." The man nodded once. "Retired, I live just outside town." He looked back at Sarah. "But I know service when I see it, and I know that mark. Very few people wear it, even fewer earn it." Sarah's throat tightened. She hadn't expected this. Hadn't expected anyone in this small town to understand. Gordon wasn't ready to back down. "With all respect, Admiral, that's impossible. The requirements for are classified," Admiral Carson said flatly. "Which is why you don't know them. Officer, lower those handcuffs." Officer Davis looked uncertain. The handcuffs dangled from his right hand, catching the sunlight. The crowd had grown larger now, with at least 30 people forming a loose circle in the parking lot. Someone had their phone out, recording. "Sir," Davis said carefully, addressing the Admiral, "we still need to verify." "I'm verifying right now," Admiral Carson said. His voice carried the tone of a man used to being obeyed. "This woman is a veteran. Those patches are legitimate." Gordon's face had turned from red to purple. "You can't possibly know that just by looking at her. This is exactly the problem. People give pretty girls a pass, and real veterans get disrespected. I demand." "You demand?" Admiral Carson turned to face Gordon fully. The temperature in the parking lot seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Son, the only thing you're going to demand is your own silence for the next few minutes while I explain something to you." Gordon opened his mouth, then closed it. Sarah watched the exchange with a mixture of emotions. Part of her appreciated the Admiral's intervention. Another part of her wanted to fight her own battles, as she always had. But she understood the reality of the situation. Sometimes, in a world that didn't want to believe in her capabilities, she needed someone with stars on their resume to speak truth. Admiral Carson gestured to Sarah's jacket. "That insignia you're so convinced is fake? Let me educate you. The Navy opened special warfare training to women in 2016. The physical standards are identical to those for men. Do you know what the attrition rate is?" Gordon said nothing. "Over 80%, the Admiral continued. "Most of the strongest, toughest candidates wash out, but some make it through, some earn the trident." He pointed to Sarah's patch. "This woman is one of them." The crowd murmured again, but the tone had shifted. People were looking at Sarah differently now. Mrs. Chen spoke up, her voice kind. "Is this true, Sarah?" Sarah nodded once. "Yes, ma'am." "And the Navy Cross ribbon?" Officer Rodriguez asked. He'd put away his notepad, his posture more respectful now. "That's the second highest decoration for Valor." "I know what it is," Sarah said quietly. Admiral Carson's expression softened as he looked at her. "You were in Afghanistan, weren't you?" Sarah hesitated, then nodded. "Among other places." The Admiral turned to the crowd. "The Navy Cross is awarded for extraordinary heroism in combat. It's not given lightly, it's not given often, and it's certainly not given to people who don't deserve it." Gordon had gone quiet, but his expression was still skeptical. "If she's really such a hero, why haven't we heard about her? Why isn't she famous?" "Because most of what she did is classified," Admiral Carson said. "Because the real heroes don't usually talk about their service. Because people like her do the hard, dangerous work in the shadows and then come home to build quiet lives." He paused. "And because people like you would rather doubt than believe." Sarah felt the weight of eyes on her. She'd spent years avoiding this kind of attention. After her last mission, after the injuries and the medical discharge, she'd wanted nothing more than peace. She'd chosen Chessik precisely because it was small and quiet, a place where she could fade into the background. But the past had a way of catching up. Officer Davis finally clipped his handcuffs back onto his belt. "Ma'am, I apologize for the confusion, but you understand we had a citizen complaint." "I understand," Sarah said. "You were doing your job." "I'd still like to see documentation," Rodriguez added, "just to close the case properly." "I can provide that," Sarah said. Admiral Carson pulled out his phone. And I can make a call right now to verify her service if you'd like. I still have contacts at the Pentagon. Gordon found his voice again. This is ridiculous. You're all being fooled. I want to see proof, real proof, not just some old man vouching for her. The Admiral's eyes went cold. Some old man? Son, I was the deputy commander of Naval Special Warfare. I personally oversaw operations across 3 theaters of war. I know every operator who earned their trident in the last 15 years. He looked at Sarah, including Lieutenant Commander Mitchell. The title hung in the air. Sarah hadn't used her rank in months. Hearing it spoken aloud felt strange, like putting on an old uniform that no longer quite fit. Lieutenant Commander, Mrs. Chen said, her eyes wide. Sarah, you never said. I'm retired, Sarah said simply. It doesn't matter anymore. It matters, the Admiral said firmly. It always matters. Gordon shook his head. I don't believe it. I want proof. Show us your military ID. Show us your DD-214. Show us something official, not just stories. Sarah sighed. She'd hoped to avoid this, but she could see there was no way out now. The crowd wanted resolution. The police needed documentation. And Gordon West wouldn't be satisfied until his accusations were either proven or definitively crushed. My house is 3 blocks away, Sarah said. I can get my documents. I'll drive you, Admiral Carson offered. Officers, you're welcome to follow. Rodriguez nodded. We'll do that. As they started to move toward the cars, Gordon called out, I'm coming too. I want to see this supposed proof with my own eyes. Sarah turned to face him. For the first time since the confrontation began, she let her mask slip slightly. Her eyes, usually soft and guarded, showed a glimpse of the steel beneath. Fine, she said. But Mr. West, when I show you what you want to see, I expect an apology. Not for me. For every woman who's served, who's fought, who's bled for this country and been told she couldn't have done it. Gordon crossed his arms. If you're real, you'll get your apology. Sarah held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded. Let's go. Sarah's house was small and neat, a 1-story cottage 2 streets back from the waterfront. The paint was fresh white, the lawn carefully maintained. Wind chimes hung from the porch, tinkling softly in the coastal breeze. She unlocked the door and held it open. Admiral Carson entered first, followed by Officers Davis and Rodriguez, then Gordon West and a handful of curious townspeople who'd followed the procession. Mrs. Chen came in, and Tom Bailey from the hardware store, and a few others whose faces Sarah recognized from around town. The interior was sparse but comfortable. A couch, a reading chair, a small television. The walls were mostly bare, except for one photo on the mantel, a picture of a younger Sarah in dress uniform standing next to an older man in navy whites. Your father? Admiral Carson asked, nodding toward the photo. Yes, sir, Captain James Mitchell. He passed 4 years ago. The Admiral studied the photo. Captain Mitchell, I knew him, good man, excellent officer. Sarah felt a familiar ache in her chest. He was. Gordon cleared his throat impatiently. The documents. Sarah walked to a small desk in the corner. She unlocked a drawer and pulled out a folder. Inside were the papers that told the official story of her service. Her DD-214 discharge papers, her award citations, her identification. She spread them on the coffee table. Officer Rodriguez picked up the DD-214 first, examining it carefully. His eyebrows rose as he read. 12 years of service, multiple deployments, special warfare operator rating. He looked up at Sarah. This is legitimate. Davis leaned over to look. Navy Cross, Silver Star, 3 bronze stars, Purple Heart with 2 clusters. He whistled low. Ma'am, I'm sorry we doubted you. Gordon grabbed the papers, his hands shaking slightly. Sarah watched him read, saw the color drain from his face as the reality settled in. The Navy Cross citation, Admiral Carson said, reaching for a specific page. May I? Sarah nodded. The Admiral read aloud, his voice formal and clear. The President of the United States takes pleasure in presenting the Navy Cross to Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell, United States Navy, for extraordinary heroism while serving as a special warfare operator in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. On the night of March 15, 2019, Lieutenant Mitchell's team came under heavy enemy fire during a rescue operation in Helmand Province, Afghanistan. When her team leader was critically wounded and 2 operators were pinned down by machine gun fire, Lieutenant Mitchell single-handedly assaulted the enemy position. sustaining multiple gunshot wounds while providing covering fire that allowed her teammates to reach safety. Despite her injuries, she maintained her position for 40 minutes until reinforcements arrived, personally accounting for 11 enemy combatants neutralized. Her actions directly saved the lives of 5 American service members and 4 Afghan civilians. Her courage and dedication to her teammates reflect the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. The room was silent when he finished. Mrs. Chen had tears in her eyes. "Oh, Sarah," she whispered. Tom Bailey removed his cap, holding it against his chest. Sarah stood still, her face neutral. She'd heard the citation before, of course, at the awards ceremony while she was still in her hospital bed recovering from surgery. The words were accurate, but they didn't capture the fear, the pain, the way the world had narrowed down to nothing but the next breath, the next trigger pull, the next second of survival. Gordon set the papers down with shaking hands. His face had gone pale. I didn't." "You didn't know," Sarah finished for him. "Because you didn't ask. You saw a woman wearing patches you thought she couldn't earn, and you assumed the worst. But online, there are so many fakes. And there are also real veterans," Sarah said. "Women and men who served with honor, who earned every ribbon, every patch, every commendation. Maybe next time, before you call the police and try to humiliate someone in public, you could simply ask to hear their story." Gordon's hands clenched into fists, not with anger now, but with shame. "I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry." Sarah nodded. Apology accepted. Admiral Carson picked up another document from the pile. His expression changed as he read. "Your medical retirement paperwork, traumatic brain injury, spinal damage, chronic pain syndrome." He looked at her. "The wounds from that night in Helmand." "Yes, sir." "How bad?" Sarah hesitated. She didn't like talking about this part. The injuries were private, a reminder of everything she'd lost. But these people had followed her here, had demanded proof. They deserved the truth. "Bad enough to end my career," she said. "I can't pass the physical requirements anymore, can't deploy, can't operate." She touched her lower back where the scars were hidden beneath her shirt. "I took 3 rounds, one shattered 2 vertebrae. The doctors put me back together, but I'm not the same." "You saved 5 lives," Officer Davis said quietly. "I did my job," Sarah replied. "You did more than that," Admiral Carson said. "You exhibited the kind of courage most people can't imagine. And then you came home and you tried to build a quiet life and you got accused of being a fraud." Sarah managed a small smile. "It's been an interesting day." Gordon stood abruptly. I need to make this right." He pulled out his phone. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked. "I posted about you on Facebook before I called the cops. I told everyone in the Chessik community group that there was a stolen Valor case at Murphy's diner. I shared it to 3 veteran groups." His voice cracked. "I need to fix this." Sarah's stomach sank. How many people saw it? "The Chessik group has 2,000 members. The veteran groups, more." Officer Rodriguez rubbed his face. "That's going to spread fast." "Then we control the narrative," Admiral Carson said. He looked at Gordon. "You're going to post a retraction and an apology, a real one, and you're going to explain exactly what you learned today." Gordon nodded vigorously. Yes, absolutely. I'll do it right now." "Not good enough," the Admiral continued. "You're also going to make a donation to the Navy SEAL Foundation in Lieutenant Commander Mitchell's name, a significant one." How much? How much is your reputation worth to you?" the Admiral asked pointedly. Gordon swallowed hard. "I'll make it $10,000. Sarah started to protest. "That's not necessary." "It absolutely is," Admiral Carson said. "Actions have consequences. He tried to destroy your reputation based on ignorance and prejudice. The least he can do is support the community you served with." Gordon was already typing on his phone, his fingers moving frantically. "I'm writing the apology now. I'll tag you, Lieutenant Commander Mitchell, so people know." "No," Sarah said sharply. "No tags, no mentions. I don't want the attention." "But people need to know the truth." "They need to know you were wrong," Sarah said. "They need to know that women serve in combat roles, that we earn our place, that we deserve respect. But they don't need my name attached to it. I came to Chessik for privacy. I'd like to keep it." Admiral Carson studied Sarah for a long moment, then nodded with understanding. "She's right. Gordon, write your apology, explain what you learned, but keep her name out of it. The lesson doesn't require identifying her. Gordon looked relieved and chastened in equal measure. I can do that, I will do that. He paused in his typing. For what it's worth, Lieutenant Commander, I really am sorry. My brother served in Iraq. He was infantry. I've seen what he went through, the nightmares, the struggles. I thought I was defending veterans like him by calling out fakes. I never thought. You never thought a woman could be the real thing, Sarah finished gently. I understand. It's a common assumption. That's why I don't get angry about it anymore. I just try to educate when I can. Mrs. Chen stepped forward. Sarah, I've known you for 8 months. You've been nothing but kind and quiet. You helped me carry groceries. You fixed Tom's fence after the storm. You read stories to children at my library hour. She wiped at her eyes. I feel ashamed that we didn't know that we didn't thank you. I don't need thanks, Sarah said. I just need to be left alone to heal. Tom Bailey spoke up, his voice gruff with emotion. You're one of us now. This town, we take care of our own, and we're going to take care of you. Sarah felt her throat tighten. She'd been alone for so long, first by choice and then by habit. The idea of community, of belonging, felt foreign and frightening, and somehow necessary all at once. Officer Rodriguez gathered up his notes. Ma'am, I think we're done here. This case is closed. No charges, obviously. He extended his hand. Thank you for your service, truly. Sarah shook his hand. Thank you for being willing to listen. Davis added, We'll file a report clearing this up officially. If anyone else tries to make accusations, they'll have to go through the documentation first. As the officers prepared to leave, Admiral Carson remained behind. He waited until the others had filtered out, until it was just him and Sarah in the quiet cottage. Walk with me, he asked. They went out the back door into Sarah's small garden. She'd planted tomatoes and herbs, finding peace in the simple act of growing things. The Admiral stood looking at the neat rows, his hands clasped behind his back. I retired 5 years ago, he said. Moved to Chessik because my wife loved the ocean. She passed 2 years back, cancer. He touched one of the tomato plants gently. I thought I'd be bored in a small town, thought I'd miss the action, the purpose, but you know what I found. Sarah waited. Peace, he said. The same thing you're looking for, the same thing every warrior looks for when the fighting is done. He turned to face her. But peace doesn't mean isolation. It doesn't mean pretending you weren't forged in fire. I'm not pretending, Sarah said. I just don't want to be defined by it. You won't be, not in Chessik. These are good people. They made a mistake today, but they'll learn from it, and they'll stand by you. He smiled. Besides, you have an ally now, someone who understands. Sarah felt something loosen in her chest. I'd like that. Good, because I run a veterans support group. Meets Tuesday nights at the community center, small group, quiet, people who have been there who understand the weight we carry. He pulled out his wallet and extracted a card. You don't have to come, but the invitation is open. Sarah took the card. Thank you, Admiral. Call me Jack, we're both retired now. They stood in the garden for a while longer, 2 warriors finding peace in the growing things and the salt-scented air. Later that evening, Sarah sat on her porch and watched the sun set over Chessik. Her phone had been buzzing intermittently all afternoon. Text messages from Mrs. Chen offering to bring dinner. An email from Tom Bailey asking if she needed anything from the hardware store. A voicemail from the mayor apologizing for the incident and inviting her to speak at the Veterans Day ceremony. She hadn't responded to any of them yet. She needed time to process, to adjust to this new reality where her service was known, where her privacy had been breached but her community had rallied. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from a number she didn't recognize. Lieutenant Commander Mitchell, this is Gordon West. I wanted you to know that I've posted the apology and made the donation. But more than that, I wanted you to know that I've spent the last 6 hours reading about women in special warfare. About the barriers you faced, the standards you met, the service you gave. I was ignorant. I was biased. I'm going to do better. My daughter is 17 and she wants to join the military. Because of today, I'm not going to tell her there are limits to what she can achieve. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for the education. Sarah read the message twice, then set her phone down. She thought about that 17-year-old girl, whoever she was, and the possibilities that stretched before her. She thought about all the young women who would serve in the future, who would face the same doubts and challenges, who would prove themselves again and again. The door to progress opened slowly, pushed by the shoulders of women who refused to accept limitations. Sarah had been one of them. She'd paid the price in blood and pain and sacrifice. But sitting on her porch in the fading light, she felt something she hadn't experienced in a long time. Pride. Not the loud, boastful kind, not the need for recognition or glory, but the quiet pride of knowing she'd done something that mattered. She'd served with honor. She'd saved lives. She'd earned every patch on her jacket, every ribbon on her citation, every scar on her body. And now, perhaps, she'd taught a small town an important lesson. That service came in many forms. That courage wasn't limited by gender. That the warrior spirit could live in anyone willing to pay the price. Her phone buzzed one more time. Another message, this one from Admiral Carson. Saw Gordon's post. Well handled. The group meets at 7 on Tuesday. I'll save you a seat. No pressure, but I think you'd fit right in. Welcome home, warrior. Sarah smiled. Welcome home. She'd been searching for home ever since her medical discharge, ever since her life in special warfare had ended and her civilian life had begun. She'd thought home was a place you found in solitude, in peace, in the absence of conflict. But maybe home was something else. Maybe it was a place where you were known and accepted, where your service was respected, where your sacrifices weren't questioned but honored, where you could be both a warrior and a gardener, both a hero and a neighbor, both strong and vulnerable. Maybe home was Chessik, Virginia, a small coastal town where an admiral lived in quiet retirement, where a librarian cried at stories of courage, where a hardware store owner removed his cap in respect, where even the people who made mistakes were willing to learn and grow. Sarah stood up from her porch chair and walked back into her cottage. She picked up Admiral Carson's card and put it on her refrigerator, held in place by a magnet shaped like an anchor. Tuesday was 4 days away. She thought she might just go. Outside, the last light faded from the sky, and the wind chimes sang their gentle song. In the distance, the ocean whispered against the shore, eternal and patient. And in her small cottage, Sarah Mitchell, Lieutenant Commander, United States Navy, retired, began to plan for a future where she was neither invisible nor spectacular, but simply herself. A warrior who'd earned her peace. A woman who'd found her home. The stolen Valor accusation had been meant to shame her, to expose her as a fraud. Instead, it had revealed the truth, not just about her service, but about the community she'd chosen. They'd failed her at first, but they'd also listened, learned, and grown. That was all anyone could ask. That was enough. Sarah made herself a cup of tea and settled into her reading chair. Tomorrow, she'd respond to the messages. She'd thank Mrs. Chen and Tom. She'd politely decline the mayor's invitation to speak, but maybe suggest they honor all veterans rather than focusing on one. She'd continue building the quiet life she'd chosen. But she'd also take that first step back toward community. She'd go to the Tuesday meeting. She'd sit with other veterans who understood the weight of service. She'd share her story if she was ready, or simply listen if she wasn't. Either way, she wouldn't be alone anymore. And that mark on her jacket, the one the Admiral had recognized, the one that was earned through sacrifice and courage and unwavering dedication. She'd wear it with pride, because it was real, because she was real, and because no one, ever again, would make her doubt the price she'd paid to earn it.